Good evening. Happy Thursday once again. Welcome back to the Man Cave. And Brother Jeff down in Orlando surviving another hurricane coming through the neighborhood this week. Yep.
Two
And
and 43
Tanya,
days.
Tanya's running the show upstairs. It's Thursday, guys. It's been another week for me, just like last week. I worked day shifts again all week this week, and I'm still outside my element, but hopefully things are getting ready to get back to normal for me. I'm hoping to go in tomorrow and hear that there's at least a game plan to get me back on the weekend shift. So I'm really hoping that's coming soon. Mike, glad you could make it. Hank, awesome. Yeah. Anthony, red wine. I'm getting ready to pour myself my glass. Jeff, are you having a drink with us tonight?
I'm having a celebratory drink. Chattanooga 111.
The Chattanooga Distilling.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the that Knob Creek single barrel again tonight. I'm really becoming fond of this one. Uh, Josh is with asking about bacon. We're going to talk a little bit about bacon here shortly. He says, I'm actually bacon curing. What is the minimum days to let it cure? There's a lot of variables there. It depends on how much cure you've got going. I like to use what's kind of called an equilibrium cure. And my when I'm curing bacon, pork belly, the way I do mine, my cure is always going to run about 7 days, uh, based on the amount of prog powder number one and the amount of salt that I'm putting in mine. That I'm the equilibrium method, which we'll maybe talk about a little bit more, is the perfect amount of salt to where you don't have to desalinate when you're done. So anyway, let's get started. Cheers.
Cheers.
Russ, glad you could make it. Heck yeah. Carl, if you're having a drink with us tonight, leave me a comment. Pop a comment in here. Tell me where you're from and what you're drinking. We usually have a pretty good crowd here from all over. Sometimes we still get Europe in here, but since I moved to 8:30 my time, it's a little harder to keep the Europeans on board because it's late over there. But we might have an Aussie or two hanging around, but it's morning over there. So unless your name's Glenn, you probably haven't started drinking yet. Okay. So excellent. Kansas, Scott. That's cool, man. Kansas. Kansas is one of the states that I've never really been to other than landing there one time to go somewhere else. Uh, let's see. Josh is having some Eagle Rare. I don't think I can see my Eagle Rare bottles behind me at the moment, but there's a couple back there. Mike's done some bacon going. Yep. The bacon that I teased you guys with last week, I finished that video up. I actually didn't get it done till yesterday. I took that out, and I'm glad I did because that was the first time I actually let bacon mature a little bit after the smoking process before I cut into it, and I'm really glad I did that. I think that benefited my process. Tanya, are you
Hmm.
drinking with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm having some ginger ale.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my beautiful. If I can get my directions going, there.
Or Tar Heel.
In the Tar
Easy.
Heel.
All right.
Yep.
Tanya, we'll bring you back here in just a bit. So, all right, let's see what Jeff's been cooking this week. That looks like Wang's, and they're
That's Wang's.
Wang's. And I know Jeff likes to cook Wang's on the Pellet Joe because the Pellet Joe does a phenomenal job with Wang's. There's no doubt
Wang's.
about that. What'd you do here with these, Jeff?
Them's bare naked until they come off, and then I used two of the G Hughes wing sauce. One was the Caribbean jerk. Man, that is good. Need to try
No
that.
seasonings on here yet.
I take that back. I did season it with Himalayan Sherpa.
Okay, so a salt, pepper, garlic, a good salt,
Yeah.
pepper, garlic blend. Yeah. And what kind of setup do you do with the Joe when you cook these?
I'm running
Pellet. This is a
anywhere
pellet.
between 450 and 500 on it.
Hot as you can get it, basically.
Well, you
Are
can
you
get it hotter
flipping
than
them?
that, but oh yeah,
Are you flipping them?
yep. Gotta flip them or they'll burn.
Scots and Pensacola. Man, the Blue Angels, that'd be cool. I have never gotten to see the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds firsthand. That's something that Tanya, make that a bucket list thing. We got to make that happen because I think the Thunderbirds do a show once a year down at Seymour Johnson, and we could run down there for that sometime and make a weekend out of that somehow or another. Yeah, the wings on the pellet grill. Jeff and I have the Kamado Joe specifically. The pellet Joe is a wing machine because it'll run hotter than most other pellet grills. I did what Jeff's doing here pretty much. I did it a couple of times on my pellet Joe, but I used the extender rack to bring the wings up a little higher. And the only advantage that really gave me is I didn't have to worry about flipping them. I was far enough away from that heat shield that I didn't have to worry about overcharring anything. But that gets really hot right under there. So here's Jeff's second picture of the wings. I guess this is after the flip.
Yep, they're
Or
just
is this
about done
after?
at this. They're just
So
about done at that point. I've
have
got
you
some of the
tossed
flats
these in the
stacked up.
sauce already?
No, I tossed them in the sauce at the end. I didn't send you a picture of that. I should have.
Yep. I can smell it from here, but
Oh, they were good. And like I say, those, as everybody knows, I've talked about it enough times. The G Hughes products, I don't think that I have had one yet that I haven't liked.
right,
They're
they make
all
good
phenomenal.
stuff.
Yeah. And for those of you who need to watch your sugar and whatnot, it's the route to go.
I got another idea about wings since you sent me these pictures earlier today
What's that?
that we need to investigate. One of the things that a lot of people like to do, and one of the things that we're always trying to mimic when we make wings, is the skin texture you get from deep frying. And it's not something that's very easy to do on a grill. You got several things working against you when you're doing that. And a lot of people, and I've done this in the past, I've put the wings in the smoke for a while and then put them in the deep fryer to finish them off. And I get good wings. I don't get a particularly good smoke flavor or profile when I do that. Jeff, this idea come across. I was thinking about this actually the other day, and it made me think about it again when you sent these pictures up. But you know how we've been doing the 200-degree smokes in the bark, to
Yep.
ramp up smoke. What I'm curious about is if we could basically deep fry the wings first and get that skin like we know it's going to come out from a deep fryer, and then just toss those things in 180-degree smoke for 30 minutes after the deep fry. I wonder what would come of that. I've never heard people talk about the idea of deep frying and then smoking. I've heard the smoke then deep fry a lot of times, but have you ever heard it go the other way?
Nope. I'd be curious to see how that actually would come out because I would think you're not going to get a whole bunch of smoke into the meat. You're going to more get it on the skin.
Well, that's where it's going anyway, because it's really not going to penetrate the surface. But the wings coming out of the deep fryer with that little bit of oil still there, that's going to give that smoke something to adhere to. So it might not have to stay in there very long, because you know how liquid,
Yep.
attracts the smoke particulate, and oil is just as better even than just water. So anyway, it's food for thought. It's something that we might need
Try
to
it once, twice if you like it.
Yeah. So this picture last week, guys. You know we were talking about this grits pizza thing. Jeff took around with this. Tell me what we've got here and what you've done so far.
All right, what I did was I made my Nora Mills Yellowstone ground grits, and then after they were done, I let them sit in the pan for about an hour to kind of really thicken up.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, I think I would have been better off preheating these dishes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I put butter in it, melted some butter in it, put my grits down, as you see there. And then I took it out to the Alpha and I put it in the Alpha for about 20 minutes. Other thing is I think I could have had the floor a little bit hotter on the Alpha. I was, with this being the first time you're experimenting, so it's one of those we'll take notes and adjust.
Right.
So, I mean, it wasn't bad, but I would have liked to have got a little crisper texture on the bottom of the grits.
Right.
To see if by chance you could have pulled it out of the pan and kind of served it like a pie on a plate.
Right. Yes, Judson, we're talking about grits.
Yeah.
We've been playing with the idea since we had Matt Frampton on here from the Urban Slicer about making a breakfast style pizza that's got a crust basically that's grits. And Tanya's got an idea which I haven't pried it out of her completely yet. We've talked about it and we're gonna try this at some point. But Jeff, this is what Jeff came up with this week. So Jeff, I guess this picture's after you came out of the Alpha with it.
Yep.
And so those grits have cooked a little bit and they've firmed up some. And then
and you can see that they shrink down a little bit.
Right.
So you got to be careful.
It's taking the moisture out.
So then I threw in some scrambled eggs.
Okay.
And then on top of the scrambled eggs, you should see some Nora Mills white gravy mixed with sausage.
Right.
Which I cheated. Rather than cook up a bunch of sausage, the sausage I had left over from the pizza, sweet Italian, I used it.
Yeah, that's fine.
It was good.
Topped it off with some sausage gravy and then a little bit of a cheddar blend there.
Right, cheddar blend, and threw it back in the Alpha until it was nicely melted. And it was very good. I mean,
Okay.
But it's not something, like I said, I think if I would have had the floor of the Alpha a little hotter and also preheated that pan beforehand, I would have I envisioned getting like a pie shell crust that you could lift out of the dish, and I didn't get that, so we're going to play with that some more.
I think you ought to hold off. Hold off until Tanya and I do this, and let's talk about it again because Tanya's got a process that's going to make that. If what she's telling me we need to do and my vision of it are anywhere close to being accurate, it's going to work and it's going to be. Cool. It's going to be good, and it's going to resemble something else I've had in a restaurant. And we'll talk about that a little later. I don't want to get too deep into that one at the moment, but it looks like you've had some pizza going as well this week.
Yeah. Had to fire up the Alpha, get some pizza going.
Yeah. What kind of crust did you make for this?
This is a Neapolitan crust that Freddie gave me the recipe for. Mm-hmm. It's basically, it's supposed to be a 48-hour cold fermentation, but I didn't have 48 hours to go, so I upped the yeast just a little bit and made it into a 24-hour fermentation.
Yep. What all's on there? Pepperoni and what? Cheese?
Pepperoni, cheese, and sausage.
And there's a video clip here. I don't know if this one was supposed to be a video clip, but it is.
Oh.
It's just a short one. It's not moving very much. But over here, of course, we've got another one of those. We got another one of those mesmerizing slow motion videos.
Don't you love that? I mean that.
Yeah.
I just love the looks of that. And you
My
can see as
alpha,
you're watching that, you can watch that
yeah.
crust on that pizza just raise.
If things go my way, I'm going to have to live the alpha life vicariously through you, because supposedly I have somebody coming this weekend to get mine, and I'll be without the alpha oven after
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah,
You know how I
that's
feel about
just
that.
that's just cool to watch. Let's see here, but yeah, that looks good. We'll see. These Facebook Marketplace people are quite unreliable, so he may or may
Yeah.
not show up. I don't expect them till they actually get here anymore, because it's kind of a it's kind of a it's a really weird thing. I don't understand Facebook Marketplace. There's 10 people out there just trying to jerk your chain for every one that might actually be interested in something you have for sale. So yeah, but that leads me into what I want to talk about briefly here next. I'm I'm moving out some of the things that I don't use that often. I don't cook on the alpha that often, and I'm trying to focus more towards things that I know the people who are following along are using. And I'm actually hoping to open some doors back to some of the people that I had following me before I got into the ceramic Kamado world. When I switched, I won't say switched, when I graduated from the Char Griller Acorn to the Kamado Joe, I lost a lot. I lost a good number of followers that I had during that time. They were discouraged because I was moving up to a more expensive grill, and I had a very difficult time convincing people that it's just another grill. And the same, a Kamado Joe Classic, you can do the same cooks on a Char Grill or Acorn that you can do on a Kamado Joe Classic.
Just a different tool.
It's a different tool, and each of those grills have their own personalities, but uh, it's just like switching from one brand of saucepan to another. Both of them are going to get you where you need to go, but I disenfranchised a lot of people, I think, when I became affiliated with Kamado Joe. I don't regret a minute of it, because I have had wonderful experiences with Kamado Joe. I love my Kamado Joe. One of the things that I might do, I haven't made up my mind completely as to whether or not I'm going to do this or not, but I'm thinking maybe about bringing an Acorn back to the party deck. But besides that, one of the things, I'm looking at a couple of things here. When I started, when I decided to get into barbecue and grilling, one of the first things I did was bought a Weber kettle. And what got me more interested in this than anything else was when I got the Weber kettle to start with. One of the first things I did was bought some steaks, and I cooked steaks for Tanya and myself for dinner one night. And Tanya's exact words were, she says, "I don't care if you ever cook another steak on the gas grill again." And that just kind of set off a chain reaction. So I bought, I had a 22-inch Weber kettle, but what we're actually looking at here is the 26-inch Weber kettle. I'm considering buying one of these and doing some more cooks on the kettle, because there's only a few things that I can do on a Kamado Joe that I can't do here very well. But for the most part, for direct grilling, for two-zone grilling, smoking, all that stuff, you can do it right here, and you can do it at a reduced cost. It takes a little bit more hands-on maintenance, obviously, to cook on a grill like this, but it's a fraction of the cost. So I'm looking very, very seriously into a 26-inch Weber kettle. Uh, Shortly after I got my first Weber kettle, I went the next step, and I bought a Weber Smoky Mountain bullet smoker. And this is one of the smokers that I've had in the past that I really wish at this point that I hadn't gotten rid of, because I am going to end up buying another. I'm going to buy one of these no matter what, because this is the 18-inch model. I am going to buy the 18-inch model. They've got 3 versions of this. They've got a 14-inch, an 18-inch, and a 22-inch. And all 4 models have 2 cooking racks. Beth, this is not really, in my opinion, I think you're talking about the Weber kettle. In my mind, it's not comparable to the Kamado Joe Kettle Joe. I have a Kettle Joe, and I'm honestly not a fan of it. It's since I do have a good bit of experience with the Weber kettle, it's not easy to set up the same cooking situations on the Kettle Joe that I could set up on my Weber kettle, and it's because of the shape of the grill. The Kettle Joe is basically a metal Kamado Joe. It doesn't have some of the same cooking characteristics and setup characteristics that a Weber kettle has. And the reason is because of the charcoal's way down low in the bottom, and the base of that charcoal cone is fairly small and centered. It's not an easy setup on the Kettle Joe to get a 2-zone cooking rack, a 2-zone cooking going, or a really hot searing area going, unless you buy some additional pieces to go along with it. The 26-inch Weber kettle that I showed you there is less expensive than the Kettle Joe, and the Kettle Joe, as far as I know, retails for $4.99, and I know there's some occasional sales on that, but the Weber 26-inch kettle is like $4.19 or $4.20, or maybe it's $4.39. I don't remember. It's not a whole lot less than the Kettle Joe, but I like, or let me just put it this way. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think it's better one way or the other. It suits my cooking style better, I think, because I can set up a very small direct cooking zone if I want it to set up a very small cook, or I can set up multiple cooking zones very easily on it just by where I put the charcoal underneath the grate. The cooking grate on the Weber kettle is closer, or the charcoal grate on the Weber kettle is closer to the cooking grate than the charcoal is going to be on the Kettle Joe, unless you put an awful lot of charcoal in the firebox. And when you put a lot of charcoal in that firebox, it gets harder to control the temperature in there. And it's just, I think the Weber, I think the Kettle Joe is a good grill, a good inexpensive metal Kamado, but I have a hard time comparing it to what I can do on a Weber kettle. But this bullet smoker right here, this is what I learned on. I had the 18-inch Weber Smoky Mountain, and this is a water pan smoker, and this thing absolutely loves to cook at 250 degrees. When you've got water in that pan and charcoal in the base, you can pretty much run the vents wide open, and your cooking temperature is never going to get over about 250 because of the water. That water produces steam, and the cooking chamber stays around 250 degrees for quite a long time. There's not a big learning curve to learning how to smoke on this, and plus it's inexpensive. This thing's in the $400 range too, I believe. These have gone up since I got mine. When I bought my 18-inch Weber Smoky Mountain, it was $299, and I think it's up over $400 now. The 22-inch model is about $550. They've gone up a good bit in the 10 years since I bought mine, but it's a fun tool to cook on, and it does an amazing job. It's got 18-inch cooking rack in it, but there's 2 of them, so you've actually got twice as much cooking space on this guy as you have on a Kamado Joe Classic if you're cooking on both racks. So there's 2 18-inch cooking grids inside this, so it's got a lot of space. But anyway, The other thing that I was looking at is this guy, and I think I've decided not to go this route. This is the Weber Summit E6 Kamado, and I've seen one of these up close. This is a really nice system, but it's $1,250 for that one, and it's got a 24-inch cooking grid on it, so it's basically the same cooking area that you get on a Big Joe and or the Big Green Egg XL. It's a 24-inch system. It's lighter weight. It's easy to move around, and it's a pretty solid system. But like I said, I'm trying to open some doors back to some of the people that I abandoned, I guess, when I moved into the more expensive systems. I would like to, go back to doing some cooking that reaches a larger audience than just the Kamado. I would like to have people interested in what I'm doing that aren't willing to spend Kamado money. And you have to admit, Kamados are expensive. Hey, Russ, glad you could make it in here with us. I'm just talking a little bit about maybe bringing some Weber equipment back around here to the arsenal. I think Russ had some Webers back in the day, if I remember correctly. But I think at the time we all did. I think most of us had a Weber Smoky Mountain on the deck somewhere. But Russ, I was talking about bringing in another Weber Smoky Mountain and this Weber 26-inch kettle. So that's something that I'm looking at. Jeff, have you cooked on Webers before? Your mic's off. Jeff, turn your mic back on.
No, I haven't cooked on a Smoky Mountain. There's my first grill.
Yeah.
That's an oldie moldy goldie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mike, no, I haven't finished that. I haven't actually started on it. I've got the barrel. I bought the 55-gallon drum, and it's sitting in my shed out there. And I'm trying. I may build it, but if I buy that Weber Smoky Mountain, I probably won't. I'm not going to go to the trouble to build the UDS if I buy the Weber Smoky Mountain. Maybe. I paid $20 for that barrel, and that barrel's full of. It's got a bunch of glue residue still in it. It's going to be a real mess to clean that one out. I love that barrel because it's not got a liner in it. It's bare on the inside. It's perfect for a drum smoker, but cleaning that glue out of there is going to be a real challenge. I don't know if acetone will dissolve the glue that's in it or not, and if I have to burn that glue out, it's going to be a mess. It's going to make a mess wherever I have to do it. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to get rid of the barrel yet, so I may still build the drum. But if you want a drum style smoker and have the resources to build one out of an old 55-gallon drum, you can come out a lot cheaper. You can spend on all the parts, even if you're buying all the parts you need to put a ugly drum smoker together, you're going to get out for maybe $250. You're going to get out for less money than if you had to buy something like a Weber. And the 55-gallon drum is going to build something that's comparable to a Weber Smoky Mountain 22-inch. If you want a water pan, you'll have to do that. Most of the ugly drum smoker people don't do water pan cooking, and that's what I want to get back to doing. So, but anyway, I need to pick you guys back up where we left off last week, talking about the bacon that I made. This is about a 3 or 3.5 pound piece of pork belly that I cured and cold smoked. And I use the Myron Mixon Bark pellet smoker as a container to cold smoke in, and I ran the pellet tube smokers in there. So after I took that off, I put it on a rack in the refrigerator and let it rest for 12 hours before I vacuum sealed it. And then I left it in the vacuum seal for a week or better before I actually cut into it. But wait a minute now. My pictures have gotten out of order again. So what's going on here? Hang on just a second. We'll figure it out. That was that picture got out of order. But anyway, let's put it back. I took that out of the vacuum seal just last night, and this is what we have. Uh, and as you remember, if you were here last week, after I smoked it, or before I smoked it, I made a seasoning blend to put on the outside of this that would be very similar to what I would put on a pastrami. I made equal parts of ground coriander, black pepper, and granulated garlic. And I put that, when I put that on there and then cold smoked it, I put it back in a vacuum seal bag. Or actually, I put those seasonings on it and put it back in a vacuum seal bag for 24 hours before I smoked it to allow some of that flavor to impregnate the surface of the meat. So anyway, last night I cut into this guy, and here's what we have. And this looks fantastic. And guys, this is cold smoked, and the internal temperature on this pork belly never got up over about 110 degrees during the time I had it in the cold smoker. So we didn't render out much fat during that smoking process. When you smoke this, a lot of people want to take that up to 150 or even 160, and when you do that, it renders out a good bit of that fat. Or not, I won't say it renders out a good bit of it, but it does render out some of that fat. And you can see here that we don't have any of that internal fat rendered out here. So I sliced a few pieces of that and put it in an iron pan last night and cooked it. And this is what it looked like when it was done. And I made video on this that I'll publish this weekend. This video and the process I used will be online soon, and I'll give you all the details in the video description of what I did with that. So that bacon is off the hook. The flavor of that is crazy. And Jeff, you've done bacon. You've made homemade bacon before. Yep. Thanks, Russ. That came out well. The homemade bacon's a little different. And I was explaining this to Tanya. Tanya loves bacon, but I don't think Tanya will like this bacon because Tanya likes her bacon to be crispy. And even when you slice this stuff thin, it's really hard to get it to cook to a crisp consistency. I've not had a lot of luck with that. And I don't know. I might need to talk to some people and find out if there's a way to make it happen. Have you done yours crispy, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I've done mine crispy. And
how do you get it to crisp up? Mine always ends up, unless I just really overcook it, it has a bit of a chew to it. And
I cook it at a lower temperature at a longer time.
Okay, well maybe I'll have to try that. I'll do that because if I can get this to a crispy consistency that Tanya would like, I know she'd love this. Russ, stick around. I've done bacon burn ends, but I made pork belly burn ends this week also that we're going to talk about next. But yes, this what Russ is talking about. If what I did here, instead of slicing it into bacon or dicing it into small pieces, if you cut that into 1-inch cubes and make burn ends out of that, it's crazy. I'm trying to remember who the first person I saw do that was. I think maybe I saw Malcolm Reed do it, and I've done it, and I've done a video on it somewhere in the past. I don't remember if it was on Kamado Joe or on Atlanta Grill Company, but there's a pork belly or a bacon burn ends video out there somewhere. Yeah, Carl, I've seen those Gateway smokers, and they're nice. What he's talking about, guys, is this company, Gateway Smokers, makes a prefabbed ugly drum smoker that you can buy, but they're $1,000 or $1,100. And guys, Russ has one of those. Russ Jones, that's here with us tonight, he's got a Gateway, and he can check out Russ's YouTube channel. It's the Smoky Ribs YouTube channel. Tanya, find me a link to the Smoky Ribs YouTube channel that Russ has gotten posted up here, and Russ has got that, and they're really nice, but they're expensive. They're twice as expensive as the Big Weber Smoky Mountain, but they're nice. I got no complaints about how nice those things look. But like I said, what I'm attempting to do by bringing some of this other stuff in is to bring some lower priced equipment in that's more affordable than most of the stuff I'm cooking on now, which is what's decided. That's why I decided not to buy that Weber E6 Kamado. I could buy that, but I'm still at the $1,250 price point there. And I'd like to be doing some stuff on less expensive equipment. So anyway, after the bacon, the next video that'll be coming up which will be next week, after I get the bacon video published, that I wanted to use the other half of that slab of pork belly to make pork belly burn ends. And so what we did, okay, guys, yeah, Russ posted the link to his video, guys, in the chat. The link to Russ's YouTube channel's there, and Russ has that smoker, and like I said, it's really nice. If you want to see some good detail on the Gateway smoker, go look at some of the stuff that Russ has done on it. And if you have any questions about it, I'm sure Russ will help you with that too. And if I remember correctly, I think Russ bought that thing. I don't remember how long ago. It's not been that long ago. I think he may have had that one less than a year. But anyway, I took the other half of that beautiful piece of pork belly and I cut it into cubes like you see here. These cubes are a little bit bigger than 1 inch. There may be some of them are maybe 1.5 inches. They're pretty hefty cubes. And I dusted these guys down with my Man Cave Magic #2 pork rub, and I'll be sharing the recipe again with you for that rub when I post the video for this. But I put a good coat of that on there, and I let it kind of dry brine in that rub for several hours before I went to the smoker with it. And I put these on the Kamado Joe, and I was running about 250. These things, the first stage of this cook, I went for right at 3 hours at 200. And guys, also not once, I don't cook these to a temperature. I'm looking for a texture. I'm not even sure what the internal temperature was here when I was done, but these seem to always work out for me on a time schedule pretty well. So this is something you can cook on a time. But here we are. This is what these guys look like about 3 hours in. About 3 hours into this cook. Some of that, that sugar in that rub has caramelized on there. And at this point, they're not done yet. And everything at this point, I'm ready to move on to the next stage of this. This is a 3-stage process. And the first stage of it, like I said, is about 3 hours in the smoke at 250. So I've got this small, like 2 3/4 quart Le Creuset Dutch oven. I just tossed these guys in that small Dutch oven, and then I sprinkled on some brown sugar. I sliced up a stick of butter, and I drizzled some honey on top of that. And then I just put the lid on it and put it back in the Kamado Joe at 250 for an hour and a half. And after that hour and a half, these guys are really ready. They're super tender. They're almost so tender that they'll fall apart when you pick them up. And I actually, halfway through that 90 minutes, I came out with a wooden spoon and kind of tossed them to keep some of that butter and honey and sugar on the surface of these things. So at that point, I took them off and I put them in a little bit different pan, and I'm experimenting with a homemade mustard-based barbecue sauce. That's this sauce. The primary ingredients in this sauce are just plain yellow mustard, apple cider vinegar, and brown sugar, and a few other goodies that I'll tell you about once I figure this out. This recipe needs a little tweak. It's not quite where I want it to be, but when I get it, I promise I'm going to share it with you. So at this point, I just kind of toss these in that sauce and put them back on the smoker at 250 for about 10 to 15 more minutes, to let that sauce tack up a little bit. And once through there, I kind of gave them a little toss. And this is the final product. These things, I don't know how to describe this one to you. This one has a different flavor. The texture, if you've ever had a pork belly burn end, pork belly burn ends, in my opinion, are way better than burn ends that are made out of any other product. And the reason I feel that way about them is because of the texture. These things are, Jeff, have you done pork belly burn ends?
Yep.
How can I describe that texture? Because they're way softer than a brisket burn end or a chuck burn end. They're just, these things melt in your mouth.
Yep.
I guess that's the only way I can put it. Even the best. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good brisket burn end. I love a good chuck roast burn end. But these things are different. And the fact that they're pork, they have that inherent sweetness already, and they just melt in your mouth. And it's probably, I guess, because these things, even these pork bellies, a higher fat content than even the point on a brisket by a good bit. I would say probably 15 to 20% more fat content in pork belly than there is in a brisket point. Would that be fair?
I'd say probably a little higher than that, but that's
because
getting there.
This pork belly, excuse me, got a little bit down the wrong way there. Pork belly is at least 50% fat. Yeah. Mike, that's a pretty good way to put it. I can live with that.
Bacon cotton candy, yeah.
Or cotton candy, because that's kind of how things go. This stuff is different. Succulent. Russ says, yeah, it's there. It's
that's a nice game day appetizer.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to call it an appetizer, what I've done with this, since Tanya won't eat this, I parceled these guys out into 4 cube servings, and I've got like 6 of them in my refrigerator, and I'll reheat those in a sous vide bath as a lunch item or something one day, one at a time. I'll put those in a sous vide bath for 30 minutes or so at about 160, and they're going to be awesome. And it's just crazy at how tender those things are. It's really hard to describe if you haven't done burn ends. And like I said, guys, the video for this guy will be out not this weekend, but next. That's next week's video. And I just don't know how to describe it. And the other good news is I've got 12 more pounds of pork belly in my freezer. So I've got to figure, I need to find something to do. And I asked this question and I didn't get any really good answers on it, but I need to figure out what I want to do with pork belly that is not bacon and that is not burn ends. I know some cool things to do with pork belly when you get the pork belly that's still got the skin on it. I know where to get that, and I'm probably going to get another piece of that sometime soon because I like smoking that and then putting it skin side down in some hot oil to puff that skin up and make it crunchy. And I've actually done a video on that. I think it's in an Atlanta Grill Company video, but I want to make a Man Cave Meals video on that and see if I can take that to the next level. But this pork belly didn't have any skin on it. Why a sous vide bath for heating instead of a stovetop? I'm glad you asked that. Jeff, you want to take that one? Or do you do sous vide reheating, Jeff?
I don't have a sous vide machine there, buddy. I don't believe in them.
Boy. Why do you not believe in sous vide?
I'm old school.
Okay, well let me tell you, I don't do really any. I do very little cooking with sous vide, My sous vide circulator and my sous vide tank's primary use is for
Reheating.
leftovers, and nothing reheats leftovers like sous vide bath. When I take my burnt ends or my pulled pork barbecue or my brisket or my ribs leftovers and vacuum seal those and throw them in the freezer, when I bring those out and get a sous vide bath going at 160 or 165 and drop that frozen meat in there in the vacuum seal bag, 30 minutes later, I have a reheated whatever it is in the bag that is daggum near as good as it was when I put it in the bag.
That I'll agree with.
It's a gentle reheat process that does not overcook the meat. Mike, if you put that on a stovetop, you're essentially going to continue cooking the meat beyond where it was cooked before. If you put it in the oven, you're going to have the same situation. You kind of have. I'm not going to say you can't do this in the oven. The sous vide process just makes it easy. It makes it a no-brainer, and you can.
It makes it hands off. If you do it on the
30,
stove, you got to constant stir it so that you
yeah,
don't burn your sauce.
30 minutes usually works on my frozen meat if my water's already up to temperature. If I put the meat in there at the same time I turn the circulator on, it takes 45 minutes instead of 30 because it takes my sous vide circulator 15 minutes or so to heat 12 quarts of water up to temperature from whatever it's coming out of my tap at. And as the cooler weather comes in, the tap water just gets colder. But like I said, that there's only a handful of things I like to cook via sous vide, and I just don't do much cooking with sous vide. But like I said, my primary use for that sous vide circulator is reheating leftovers. I do that 15 times for every 16 times I fire up the sous vide circulator. I hope that answers the question. It's my favorite way to reheat leftovers. And I not only reheat barbecue, it's another good way to reheat chicken. If you've got cooked chicken that's vacuum sealed, there's nothing worse. Chicken is going to dry out by most other reheating methods, even if it's a slow. Anthony says a sous vide episode education will be interesting. I hear different thoughts of using sous vide. It doesn't dry out. It doesn't dry it out in a sous vide. Okay, yeah, I understand that, and maybe we can talk about that. Who's the sous vide expert? I guess Darren. Darren.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Get Darren on.
Darren's going to come on with us in December, and I haven't talked to you about that yet, Jeff. But Darren has got a line of his own rubs out now and sauce
Yeah,
stuff.
I've seen that.
We're going to talk with Darren about the rubs and sauces in December, and maybe we can talk about some sous vide during that process.
Yeah, he's big into it.
There's another guy I'm familiar with that does a lot of sous vide. I don't know if I could get him to come on with me or not, but I might try. If you're familiar with Guga of Guga Foods, yeah, he's a sous vide expert, and I don't know. Maybe I could invite Guga to come on one Thursday night. I'll see if I'll run it by him because he's fun. I've talked to Guga quite a few times in the past, and maybe if I could get him to come on, he might be the one person I know that's probably got more sous vide experience than anybody. The other one that was going to come on with me at one time and it didn't happen is Greg Mervich. Greg's done a sous vide barbecue book, so maybe I'll get with Greg again and see if I can get him. Everybody wants Guga. Okay, guys, I'll try to make contact with Guga sometime and see if I can get him to come on with me. I haven't talked to Guga in a while, but he definitely knows me. So I'll see if I'll run it by him and see if we can make that happen, because even if it's not, the guy's just fun. He's fun to talk to. Every bit of what you see when you watch a Guga video, that's how Guga is. That's him. So let me look into that. I'll see if I can bring him on and have a sous vide talk, because and Guga also is the only person I know that knows 981 different ways to cook a ribeye. So yeah, Google would be fun. I'll see if I can make that happen. So okay, so sous vide's a good topic. Uh, when it comes to what I like to cook sous vide, I'm like Jeff. There's not a whole lot of things I like to cook uh, in a sous vide bath. Anthony, I don't know.
Well, the one thing that Darren always says is so good. He takes a New York strip and he throws it in the sous vide and then he finishes that on the grill and he says it's every bit as tender as a filet mignon. Hmm.
Well,
I
I've
would have to
cooked
try it
steaks
to
sous
believe
vide.
it.
Well, here's the deal. I've cooked steaks sous vide. I've done these. I had sous vide. I did some sous vide a long time ago before sous vide was cool. And if you look back far enough on the Man Cave Meals YouTube channel, somewhere back in there, I had this product called the Dork Food sous vide. And what this thing was is it was basically a temperature controller that worked in conjunction with a crock pot. You plugged the crock pot into this thing and then you stuck its temperature probe into the water in the crock pot, and it turned the crock pot on and off to keep that water at whatever temperature you had it set at. There was no circulation, but that was the first time I had done sous vide. And there's an art to it, and maybe I just don't know what it is. The thing that I don't like about sous vide is that the cooking process itself is not adding anything flavor wise to the meat. It's just providing heat and nothing else. The sous vide process is not hot enough for most of the things that you're doing to take proteins to the coagulation point. And what I mean by that is one of the things I've learned in my yeah, Russ, that would be a legitimate use for it for sure. I can
Mhm.
see that. But one of the things I've learned in the online cooking class I'm taking from Chef Todd Moore at webcookingclasses.com, guys, I paid for that. I'm not getting that for free. And one of the important temperatures to understand in cooking is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the point at which proteins coagulate. Proteins go through a change at 165 degrees that is irreversible. And one of the things you can get an understanding of that is like an egg. When you're cooking eggs, at one point that egg goes from liquid to solid. That's happening at 165 degrees. There's no going back. But meat, when you're cooking meat sous vide, you're getting it to that medium rare or medium temperature or whatever you want to do that is less than 165 degrees. So we've basically taken a ribeye, for instance, and cooked it to maybe 128, 130 degrees to end up with a medium rare. Then we take it out, and we've got a hot pan ready or a hot grill. We're going to give it a little sear on the outside to get some char on it to make it like a real steak. So that works. And the fact that the meat is already cooked, it does not take long to do that sear. Once the meat's been at 130 degrees or whatever, it sears quickly. It's not as long as it would if you put the meat on cold. But there's, in my mind and my experience, and one of the reasons I'm not a fan of sous vide steaks so much is that time over the fire of when you're flipping that steak and whatnot. There there's flavor development going on there that takes time. It doesn't happen. You don't get it as quickly, in my opinion. And it may just be that I don't know how to do it, or that my experience is not good. So yeah, if we could get Guga on here, that's a question we need to throw to him because he will be able to tell you if what I'm telling you is BS or not. And
Well,
I'm
see, in
not
my mind,
saying
I can't wrap my mind around it as it coming out more tender. I don't buy that.
I can buy that because I do know for a fact that if you take a ribeye, put it in a 128 to 130 degrees sous vide bath for 3 hours, it's losing texture. It's the tenderness is almost, it's too much. It's too tender. It's losing texture at that point. And that also is more of a case with ribeye than it is with New York strip or fillets. The tenderloin meat has a tighter texture than a ribeye, and
Mhm.
so does a New York strip. But ribeye, in my opinion, if you leave it in there too long at temperature, it gets too tender.
With the ribeye, I can understand it, but like I say, he's saying, like I said, New York strip, and I don't buy that. I don't.
Right.
Uh,
So,
I mean, I'd have to see it to believe it.
well,
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I'd have to see it to believe it.
but so, in other areas, there are a couple of cool things that I like to do with sous vide. If I'm cooking chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I don't care about having a smoky flavor, the absolute best way to cook that chicken breast is in a sous vide bath at 140 degrees for about 3 hours. That makes the most tender and most juicy boneless, skinless chicken breasts I've had in my entire life. And uh, if you're going to do that, you don't need to brine the chicken breast first. You just put a little salt in with it in the vacuum seal bag because the brine will completely happen during that time under the heat. Uh, Another thing that I've experimented with, which I don't still like to do, is doing hard boiled eggs via sous vide. Uh, you can make a perfect hard boiled egg every time uh, with a sous vide method. Russ says you can pasteurize eggs for mayonnaise. Hmm, interesting. The mayonnaises I've made, I don't know if I've ever bought when I've made homemade mayonnaise, which I've given up on doing. I can't make one I haven't made one yet that I'm in love with. I'm not really. I don't guess I've ever pasteurized the eggs first, but that's a thing. I can see that. Uh, I've got Greg's sous vide barbecue book on the shelf over here, so maybe I'll talk to Greg again as well. But if I can get Guga to come on with me, that'd be fun. Uh, I guess Guga's still down in the Miami area. I haven't. It's been a while since I've talked to him, but let me hook up with him and see if I can get him to come on. That'd be fun. Uh, that'd be a good topic, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So, uh, Russ says Guga caught him a lot. It was on one of his shows. Yeah. Uh, Guga's had a lot of good. I think Greg Mervich has done some video content with Guga as well. But I met Guga when I was doing what I do for Kamado Joe, and I actually hooked Guga up with a couple of Kamado Joe grills back quite a long time ago that he used for a while. So you know who we're talking about, Jeff? You've seen
Yeah,
Guga's content, haven't you?
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, maybe Google will come on with me. Another one I'd like to get on with me, but the time difference is the problem. Is Rule Pitmaster
Yeah.
X.
That's 6 hour time difference.
Yeah, and what I might have to do with him is get him on and do an interview with him in a time frame that suits him, and then just do it as a playback, which I can do that with this system, but I'm not going to ask Rule to stay up till 2:30 in the morning his time to be on.
Although he probably would.
Well, he might, but Rule when he was first getting started in video, if you guys ever go back to some of Rule's really early videos, he did videos where he didn't speak and he didn't appear in the video. He just did some really cool cooking things. And I got on him one time about it. This was a long time ago. I said, man, you need to get on there and be part of your video. And you know what he said? He told me he was very self-conscious about doing that because he was afraid people, especially here in the States, would not like his accent. And I told him this after the very first time I heard him speak and heard him say something on one of his videos. I said, you got to do that more. And he was worried. He was worried about how people would react to his accent. And I said, man, that's going to be a seller for you. I said, you're going to love that. And look at what he's done now. His channel's exploded, man. He's
built himself a little empire.
Yeah, I enjoy watching. I can't watch all of his content because he puts out a lot of content these days. I just don't have time to watch all of it and still.
Does he have a real job?
I'm not sure if I think he's doing YouTube full time now.
That's what I'm thinking, because with as much content as he turns out, I don't know how the heck he's holding down a job and turning out that kind of content.
Well, he's got people working for him, helping put that content out. So he's putting out a lot of cool stuff. So, Russ said he told him the same thing there about about it. He was worried that people would not like him because he sounds different. And I told him, I said, people here in the United States will eat that up. That's a bonus. That's not a drawback. And he's definitely, he's a lot of fun. He's come a long way. He's making great content. He's fun to watch. And I've learned some stuff from him. And one of the things I've learned from Rule that I've really enjoyed doing is that mayonnaise slather on steaks to help build that crust. And that's been I don't know if that's his technique or where he got it from, but he was the first person I saw do that. And so it's hard to tell who to give credit to anymore in the barbecue community, barbecue and grilling. It's hard to figure out who invented something anymore because there's so much of it.
Well, we used to do that back in the 70s on steaks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've done it a couple of times, and I think mostly when I've done that, it's been in a reverse sear setup, and I don't do reverse sear that often. I'm not a big reverse sear fan, and that's a whole nother story. It's a preference, and everybody is entitled to their preference, just like my wife. Let's wake Tanya up. Tanya, wake up there.
I'm up.
I appreciate the fact that my wife has preferences that don't always match mine. And I've learned a lot from that. And Tanya will tell you, Tanya, I cook great steaks, don't I? I cook steaks that suit you and you like them. And she would rather have my steaks than any steakhouse we've ever been to, except for maybe, I don't know, if I had to go up against the chefs at Morimoto in Waikiki, I might.
That was really good.
Back up to those guys, but
Morimoto's guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that is the best meal I've ever had out.
Yeah. We had surf and turf at Morimoto, and the good thing is that
I tried the surf.
She did. She tried the surf part of it, but the great thing was I got what she didn't eat, and man, it was off the hook. I've never had fish. That tuna is imported from Japan. It's not local tuna, but it was some of the best flavored tuna I've had in my life. And it's raw. It's ahi sashimi. I don't know what you would call it. I wouldn't even begin to try to classify what that was, but it was sweet. It had a sweetness to it, like no tuna. Tuna is not something that I would normally call. I don't know. Tuna's got a little sweetness to it. Is that legitimate, Jeff, a
Yeah.
sweetness of tuna. Well, this tuna, it was clean. It was just refreshing. It
If
was
you
great.
ever come to Orlando, I need to take you out to City Walk or
Hmm.
Disney Springs, as it's now called, and take you to Morimoto's out there and give you some of their spare, or not the spare ribs, or beef ribs. Oh
Uh-huh.
my God.
Well, I learned something else about Morimoto the other day that I didn't know. Morimoto, guys, if you don't know who Chef Morimoto is, you need to look him up. He was an Iron Chef, and he's crazy. He's amazing. But I follow Chef Eric Gephardt as many of you do, and I noticed last week Chef took his daughter, his oldest daughter, to New York City for ramen and a Harry Potter on Broadway, a daddy daughter weekend or a daddy daughter. It may have even been a day trip. I don't remember, but I didn't realize it until this post that Chef made. But Morimoto's got a ramen shop somewhere in New York City, and
Mhm.
uh, Tanya is a ramen fanatic. Tanya and I both like good ramen, and I looked up the menu, and there's tonkatsu. Tonkatsu's on that menu, so we're
Mm.
going. We're gonna have to make that happen. And but yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
Well, I
That would
will
be a
tell you this
long
much.
day trip. I think it was probably a weekend trip, John.
Yeah, it won't be a day trip. Tanya and I'll have to fly up there and just I don't know. The airports aren't near Midtown,
Well, I
so
will tell you this much. Out of everyone I've ever seen cooking, the only person who made me think that I would like to try fish is Morimoto.
yeah.
And I did try the
He
fish.
he
So,
is to me he's my top favorite as far as chefs go. I mean, you
Well,
can
I
talk
used to
Bobby
watch Iron
Flay,
Chef.
whatnot, but
Well,
Morimoto, he kicks butt.
I've got two favorite Iron Chefs. Morimoto was at the top of the list, and Michael Simon.
Michael Simon, yep.
Right, Simon and Morimoto. If I started watching Iron Chef and it wasn't going to be Morimoto or it wasn't going to be Michael Simon, I quit watching. I'm not a fan of Bobby Flay. Bobby Flay's a
I
great
could
chef.
take
He
Cat.
is. Well,
I
maybe.
like Bobby Flay's cat Nacho. He's very handsome.
I would occasionally watch Mario, but
Mario Batali, yeah, before he fell out
yeah,
of grace.
yeah, but the thing I like most about Mario is not his cooking. I like the fact that he doesn't mind wearing orange Crocs, and that's cool with me.
That says a lot.
So, but Michael Simon, I've got Simon's book, and I would like to eat at one of Simon's restaurants sometime because he brings a flavor. He and Morimoto are not similar in any way, other than maybe their knife skills. And then again, I'm not sure if Simon can keep up with Morimoto with the knife, but
uh,
those guys are
Anthony,
amazing.
I will tell you that, like, if I have to see it before I'm going to eat it, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Or if it looks like it, like, used to look. These people that take the little fish and they like twirl it around and it's got the tail in its mouth and no, I,
yeah.
no, nope.
Put Beth's
And
comment
more
up
nope.
there, Tanya.
So,
Beth, I did see a lot of that. Simon was cooking at home during the pandemic and putting video content out, and I'm thinking most of that's still out there on his YouTube channel.
well, during the
Uh,
pandemic, I started watching a lot of Jacques Pepin videos and
yep,
started
he's good
trying
too.
to experiment with some of Jacques'
Tanya,
recipes.
Tanya got an autographed insert for one of his books for
I
pre-ordering it.
did.
Also, what was that book called? Isn't
Oh
that the
Lord,
one when he was
everyday
cooking
cooking or
with his
something like that, or Jacques Pepin at home.
he was
All I
cooking
can
with his
tell you is that the
granddaughter?
soup recipes are
Yeah,
fabulous.
Yes, they are.
he's amazing. But yeah, all
Hmm.
right. So what we're going to take away from tonight is I guess my next task is to see if I can con Guga into coming on live with us. So that I can see that possibly happening. That could happen. I can't promise when, but if I'll try to make contact with Guga this week and see if we can bring that on next week. I've got another guest lined up for next week that I hope you guys are going to like. I'm not gonna give you any insight on this guest until we make it happen. But currently, this person has agreed to come on with me, and I think we're going to have some fun. So
I don't even know who it is.
we'll have a
I
guest.
don't know either,
Guest.
Jeff. He hasn't
Yeah,
told me, or if he did tell me.
Darn, I feel like a mushroom. Keep me in the dark and feed me.
So yeah, I've got a guest coming on next week. I'll tell you one thing. I'll give you two hints. It's a she, and she lives in Australia. So
Boy, that really narrowed it right down.
yeah.
Now, see, population of Australia is okay, and then out of that, there's females. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, if you go have a look in the Kamado Guru Facebook group, you'll probably figure out who it is pretty quickly. She's been posting.
I have a guess. I have a guess, but that's it.
She's been posting some amazing content, and she's doing a project of cooking something on her Kamado grill every day for 365 days, and she's
okay. I know who it is. She made that announcement on the page. That was her goal.
She's coming up close to the 300-day mark now, and I sent her a message. I was going to have her on last week, but this job situation that I've had of where I'm working all day, every day during the week, I haven't had the time to do the prep that I need to do before I bring her on. I want to do her justice if I bring her on, which means I need to go scam a bunch of photos and some video content that she's posted to bring on here with her when I bring her on. So we're going to have...
She's got enough out there.
Yes, she's got a lot of stuff, and guys, she's inspiring. So I don't think she's native Australian. I think she lives in Australia, but we'll figure this out. I'll talk to her over the weekend and get some more detail, some more back information on her. And it'll be the first female guest I've been able to talk into coming on live with us. So I'm excited about that too.
No, she is a migrant to Australia.
I think that's true. I'm pretty sure it is.
She has it on her Facebook picture, on her profile picture.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to wrap up. I've got to shut down. I'm tired. I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And guys, y'all have a good week. Look for my bacon cure and cook video coming up either tomorrow evening or Saturday. It probably won't arrive till Saturday because I don't know if I'm going to mess with it tomorrow.
Hey, Mom.
Is Mom with us? Hey,
Mom's here.
She just popped in.
Yeah.
Just popped in.
She's checking up on me. She's making sure I'm not cussing, and she's making sure I haven't had too much to drink. So
she's a good mom. Takes care of you. Keeps you on the straight.
Guys, something I need to show you next week. I need to get a photo. Tanya, I need you to help me photograph the T-shirt quilt Mom made for me. I want to show you guys my mom's the quilt that my mom made for me out of a bunch of the old graphic T-shirts that I have. It's crazy. It's amazing.
Crazy good.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one more thing that
I'm jealous.
John, that you need to do.
What's that?
We have somebody who has a birthday, so you need to shout out a happy birthday.
Whose birthday is it?
It's Mike's birthday.
Mike. Which Mike do we have? Mike Cerny?
Nope, it's Haig Hog. I'm gonna say it wrong. This Mike. Hang on. That Mike.
Mike on his birthday. Tuning in on my birthday. Mike.
Happy birthday, Mike.
I'm gonna try to say that it's Hog. I'm not sure, and if I've got that wrong, Mike, let me know. But happy birthday. Man, I always throw out a happy birthday wish to anybody, because the birthday is a big deal. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you are. Birthday is worth celebrating.
It sure
It
is.
is. And I'm different on that. I try to hide my birthday because I know everybody. I've got an audience that would want to wish me a happy birthday, but I keep that private. Some people here might know when mine is, but I've got it turned off on Facebook where you can't find it. But Mike, happy birthday! I hope you cooked today. I hope you were able to cook on your birthday, and I hope you didn't have to work. I hope you took a day off, took a me day. A birthday is a great day to have a me day where you don't have to worry about what anybody else wants you to do. You have a Mike day today. I hope you had a good Mike day. And Tanya, you need to listen to this because I've been fussing about Tanya. Tanya needs some me time. Tanya's got to make some Tanya time here, and I've been getting on her about that.
He has
Tanya works
been.
too hard. Tanya works too hard, and I need Tanya to make some Tanya time. So,
I need people who are new in their position to learn how to do their position quickly so I can dump off this load I've been doing for over a year now.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up.
Anyway.
Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll be back next week. I've got an amazing guest lined up, so be sure and come in, and we're going to get schooled on how to do some amazing Kamado cooking from a wonderful lady that's living in Western Australia. She's in Perth, which, if I'm not mistaken, is out on the western side of the country.
Beth, I'm trying to get there.
Beth, it's Tanya's fault that we haven't been up there. I've tried. We're working on that. We got to get up there. We got to go see Lulu, Penny, and Coco.
At
the
Palace.
Tanya and I love red pandas, and they've got some amazing ones up there. So we're going to get there one day. When Tanya says we're ready to go, we're going. So
got to go backpack.
Maybe cool weather would be a better time to go up there, Tanya.
Well, we had talked about that, and then there was that COVID lockdown part 5,000.
And Beth, we were just Tanya's got some time off in December, so maybe we can make that happen during Tanya's Christmas break.
So I got some time off in December too, and November, and October, and September.
Jeff's retired. Jeff's retired. I'm appreciative of that, but I'm pretty much planning to work up till lunchtime on the day of my funeral. So that's about where I stand.
I'm going to be done probably in the next 8 years.
My 401k, my retirement, I think currently is probably a negative number at the moment. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. So
we don't even want to talk about it, John. At least you have time for it to come back.
Oh, man.
It really hurts when you're retired.
We'll see. All right, guys, y'all have a good week. We'll see you next week, and thanks for hanging out with us.